Hi everybody, I am Lynda Figueredo. I'm the new Media Relations Director here for the FAU Northern Campuses, and I'm with the Executive Director of the Brain Institute. This is Randy Blakely.
Hi, how's it going, Lynda?
Very good. We have some exciting news here to tell you about, but before we do that, we want to tell you a little bit about the Brain Institute and about Randy and your background.
Well, I'm a neuroscientist. I'm a molecular neuroscientist, and I lead the Brain Institute, as you indicated. The Brain Institute is a major investment that Florida Atlantic University is pursuing in brain research, both fundamental brain research as well as what we call translational and clinical research that runs from taking a discovery all the way, hopefully, to the clinic. And so it's a multi-million-dollar investment that is stimulating the recruitment of top faculty, developing graduate programming so we can have really top-notch students and more of them here at FAU, and investing in the technology that's needed to do terrific research.
I think it's really outstanding to learn about the amazing things you're accomplishing right here on this campus in Jupiter. Before I started this position, I had no idea about the amount of research and development that is happening. And we want to highlight one of those that just came out. It just came out on the FAU News Desk, and we'll put a link on this in this post. But FAU and some of the researchers and faculty that are associated with the Florida Atlantic Brain Institute were just awarded a major award, about $1.1 million for Alzheimer's research. Talk to us about this and what it means.
Right. Well, this certainly does involve investigators in Jupiter, but also investigators on our Boca campus. The Brain Institute spans all of the campuses, and we have different kinds of neuroscientists on each of those campuses that the Brain Institute seeks to support. And we're very excited about this really collection of awards that have been given to institute-affiliated investigators. Since you mentioned Jupiter, one of those projects is from Dr. Henriette von Praag, a recent recruit from the National Institute on Aging. And her project looks at how lifestyle, particularly exercise, can influence the growth and function of adult-born neurons. Many people think we're born with all the neurons we have, and then it's just an issue of keeping them healthy.
Right.
And while that is definitely the case, Henriette's work is in the area of increasing populations of neurons that are actually born later in life and that can be stimulated to grow through exercise. And not only do these neurons occur and prosper with exercise, it's meaningful. It changes the function of our brains and of the animal models that Henriette uses to study brain function. So these animals who have more of these adult-born neurons actually are better able to perform memory tasks. And we think that can have relevance for the treatment of disorders like Alzheimer's disease.
And keeping the brain active, another reason to stay stimulated.
Absolutely. And exercise is just one of those ways to do it. And also remember that there are older people in our community who really can't get out and exercise. So if we can figure out how that process works, perhaps we can put that into some form of medication that can help them sustain their mental capacities, far longer into their life.
Very interesting work, and this is very relevant, especially for our area. We know that we have an aging population in
Absolutely.
South Florida. I know even in my work in news, it was one of our main stories of making sure that they're engaged, that there's resources for them to stay active. And another portion of that is the driving. And if they're
Right.
safe to be on the roadways, what is the age and how do you stay sharp enough to be on the road? And that's actually one of the studies as well.
That's right. That's a project down in Boca out of the College of Nursing. Dr. Ruth Tappan has been working for a number of years with the elderly population and patients who have signs of dementia. And one of the questions is always, should they be on the road, and at what point should they turn that responsibility over to others? And it's such an important issue that relates to our independence. And it's of course a public issue that we need to make sure we have safe drivers on the road. And when it comes to determining, should you drive or should you not, if you're elderly and maybe experiencing some signs of dementia or even Alzheimer's disease, is there a tool that we can use to tell us objectively, well, now is the time when you should really be making some different life decisions. And Dr. Tappan works in that particular area of brain function and is developing tests that can be used in the clinic, and then one day actually could be used over the web so that people could do these tests at home and then consult with their family members, consult with clinicians about their responsibility and how they should change their behavior.
I know that's always a very difficult conversation for families to have, and especially during the holidays when loved ones come home and they see that maybe their parents shouldn't be behind the wheel, and it becomes a hostile situation. So something to alleviate that. And really,
some objective measure that sort of takes the family out of the equation. It's not to say that everybody is still going to want to comply with the suggestions that are given. But I think that in a healthcare environment with the appropriate information, I think many individuals will act more responsibly and understand that this is something that it's now time. This is that time in their life when they need to get some help and let others help them.
And I want to let you talk just briefly, and I know you've already said the impact of Alzheimer's and the connection, but many of us, I have several relatives that have passed from Alzheimer's dementia. It's a fear in our family and fear in many families. Talk to us about the scope of this disease.
Right. This is particularly in the state of Florida, where we have a lot of retirees, an elderly population that's more significant than in many other states. This is a pressing issue for us as scientists to help understand better, and there's a national push coming out of the NIH and Congress to really ramp up the research in this area. When one looks at the numbers of individuals who are living longer, and Alzheimer's disease, the major risk factor really is age. And so the more we age, the more we have an aging population, the prevalence of dementias like Alzheimer's disease increases. And this is something that will cost our families, cost our communities a lot of money. And so even just if you want to think in the sort of economic zone, this is really, really important to deal with. But of course, we tend to think about humans and our behavior and our function, and all of us will age and are aging. And so what is it that we can do with our science that will give us new insights? We have investigators that are actually looking at individual molecules in the brain that change with aging, and that maybe a little bit more investigation might give us just the clues we need to stop this disease in its tracks, and certainly we hope that at minimum delay not necessarily the aging process, but aging well, allow that to happen.
Right, and very important work, and I'm sure many people on the hanging on to their seats, hoping that something like that does happen.
Me too.
before we get too old for it. Finally, I just want to notice and pay tribute to this is a large group of people to be nominated and to be awarded this.
That's right.
It's a huge accomplishment.
It is. Florida Atlantic University has really only in the last 5 years made the decision that neuroscience, brain science, and brain health is going to be a major thrust of its research going forward. There are many things it could choose, but I think the vision is that neuroscience impacts so many other aspects of our lives and our physiology that this really is the one to invest in. And I think it's a tribute to that investment that, considering that we're a relatively young university, that we're second only to the University of Florida this year in our awards by the Ed and Ethel Moore Foundation for Alzheimer's Research, which is a major state pathway for funding of Alzheimer's disease.
If people want a little bit more information, where can they go?
Well, you can simply go to the web if you want to learn about the Brain Institute at ibrain.fau.edu. And there you'll learn about many things that we're doing, and which run the gamut from research programs to community programs. And we're always delighted to get into the community and talk about our research and also participate in stimulating the development of new neuroscientists, even at the middle school level.
That's right, and we'll be highlighting some of those students. I was just there yesterday at the STEM lab right here in Abacoa, so we'll show you some highlights of that as well here on our social media channels. Thanks very much for joining in.
FAU Brain Institute, where discovery comes to mind.